Hi guys, the Middle Maniac back again, and in this video I'm going to be listing off 10 albums that have the best atmosphere. Now, atmosphere is important for an album because it establishes the mood and overall ambience, I guess, of an album. Basically, if you don't have a good atmosphere for an album, then it just ruins the whole effect. And it just ruins the whole album. But today, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the best of the best when it comes to atmosphere on albums. So I'll get straight into it. At number 10. Sorry, I don't have these like right next to me. I should have just had them right next to me here on the floor, but whatever. Anyway, at number 10 is Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel. This has a really good atmosphere to it. Very sinister, very, it sort of creates the perfect atmosphere of the unknown. Kind of like a lot of these songs, sort of, I mean, a few of them, but like, it sort of sets up a perfect atmosphere of the fear of the unknown and the fear of stuff we don't understand. Yeah, it's just really, really cool. It fits the music so well. Like, it's just one of those albums where immediately get hit with the atmosphere and you're like, oh, I know what I'm in for. You know, it just immediately, you're like, I'm in for like a very, very sinister but very catchy album. But yeah, just a real album with a really just great atmosphere to it. It's at number 10. Alright, number 9. Number 9 is the album Jugulator by Judas Priest. Technically speaking, not the best in terms of atmosphere. If you're but that's really only if you like the that's really only if you prefer the more I don't know, how do I describe it? Like the 70s, I guess, stuff, the slower sort of not traditional, not slower, not 80s heavy metal type atmosphere that the early albums had. But if you like the sort of like the you know, like later 70s, maybe even the 80s stuff, you would actually have this probably up with the best atmosphere, because it is a very dark album. And I'm not saying it's like dark like death metal heavy dark, but it is sort of the darkest Judas Priest album in terms of like anything they've put out before and after. It definitely is the most sinister. I love the atmosphere. It has sort of like a brooding sort of brooding atmosphere. Very, very well paced. I just love it. I don't think there's anything more to say about this that I haven't said in any other videos, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. Alright, number 8. Number 8 is The Death Album 3 by Death Clock. This one has an atmosphere, but in a different sort of way. Like, the atmosphere in here isn't like, I mean, yeah, it's sort of a darker, heavier atmosphere in a way, but the atmosphere for the most part, is basically trying to envelop you in the world of the TV show of Metalocalypse, rather than setting up like superficial atmosphere of like, oh, this like just like being like, you know, brutal or heavy or anything. So, I mean, it's very interesting and unique towards the Death Clock albums, but I think this definitely has the best atmosphere in terms of all three. Definitely the thing that'll like envelop you in the sort of world of Metalocalypse. It works especially if you've already seen the TV show and then you put this on. It works a lot better, so you kind of know what's going on, really. But yeah, it's just so good. Like, every time I listen to this, I just replay in my head the episodes of that these songs are featured on. Um, but yeah, just great job with the atmosphere. I absolutely love it. Where did I put this? Oh, over here. All right, at number 7. I'm pretty sure I'm at number 7 now. At number 7 is... Yeah, I'm at number 7. At number 7 is Show No Mercy by Slayer. The atmosphere is great on this one. It's very, very different than any of the other Slayer albums. Because the album, like, the atmosphere is different because the album is different. Like, it's more, it is, I can't speak today. It is early thrash in nature, but it does have a lot of heavy metal, not classical, classic heavy metal elements to it. So it does have that atmosphere that goes along with it. As well as the more sinister but sort of cheesy in a way atmosphere that they infuse into it. I mean, with songs like a great example is Metal Storm Slash the Face of Slayer. Like, the atmosphere added to the actual song and musically with the song, like, it has the atmosphere it's kind of creepy, kind of sinister, the atmosphere is, but it's not taken too seriously. It's just sort of a fun, cheesy sort of thing that is sort of a more of a playful sinisterness to it rather than taking itself seriously. But yeah, it's just has a really good atmosphere. All right, number 6. What do I have at number 6? Number 6 is The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. The atmosphere on this one is, I don't know, kind of different than most. Kind of like with the Death Album 3, how that's supposed to put you into the sort of, the atmosphere is supposed to put you into the world of Metalocalypse. Whereas this one, unintentionally, it has an atmosphere that's sort of an unintentional. Like, if you listen to this, how am I supposed to say this? When you listen to this, immediately you're hit with, oh, this is an 80s album. But in a good way, in a very, very, very good way. Not a bad way at all. Like, it has that atmosphere it's sort of like a time capsule, really. Like, yeah, a lot of the Maiden albums are like that, with the 80s stuff, especially the earlier stuff. But this one in particular, immediately when you hear, like, something like 22 Acacia Avenue and the guitar riff and then the solo, the mid-sections of this album, songs on this album really make that point of, this is an 80s album, and it's a very, very, very good one. So I love how this is sort of a time capsule, really. Like, not only is it from the 80s, but it sounds so much like it's from the 80s, but in every good possible way. But yeah, I just love the atmosphere on this album. Very energetic, very energetic, but very good. Number 5. Hang on. Number 5. Number 5 is Rocky to Hell by Grim Reaper. Now, I could have easily put the first album on this list, but I almost dropped that. That wouldn't have been good. Anyway, the reason why I put this on this list instead of the first album is because I think this album captures the essence of the band the best. And the overall essence, the overall atmosphere, how I could describe it, I could describe it with one word: fun. Just fun. Like, it's just fun to listen to. Like, that goes with pretty much all of the classic Grim Reaper albums, like all three of them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the second one is pretty bad, but I know there's fans of the second one, and I don't blame them. It's just not my thing. But I mean, overall, the classic Grim Reaper stuff from the '80s, the vibe it brings off, it's just fun. Like, you have so much fun listening to this, and this just encapsulates. Sort of it in it brings all of this, all of the fun, all of the just awesome nature of their music into one album. Um, it's just something that you could put on and just, when it's done, you don't even realize, like what time you started and how much time has passed, because you're just having so much fun listening to this album. It's just super enjoyable because of that atmosphere, along with the actual music itself. It's just so fun. But yeah, it's at number 5. At number 4. Number 4 is Don't Meddle with Evil by Halloween. This album, now the band itself kind of has sort of a gimmick, like their gimmick, like every band in the '80s and even bands nowadays have some sort of gimmick, whatever it may be. This band, Halloween, their gimmick, of course, because of their, as their band name suggests, their gimmick is Halloween. All the tropes, all the tropes, all the uh, uh, everything to do with the holiday of Halloween. And this album really brings that into the forefront more than any other of their other albums. Even though a lot of their other albums do have a lot of elements of the spirit of Halloween, this one has the most. Like, there's only really like one song on the entire album that's not really Halloween themed. Whereas like their other albums, for the most part, aren't really Halloween themed. Some are whatever, but others are Halloween themed. Where other songs on those albums also are just generally horror themed. This one can be horror themed, but it's one album that has the most of the spirit of Halloween in the most fun, spooky, cheesiest way possible. Um, I mean, take for example the sound effects on this album, like with the song "Trick or Treat." There's like the doorbell ringing and the kids saying "Trick or Treat." On the Wicked Witch, there's a Wicked Witch laughing. The song "Busted," there's a sound of glass breaking, or I think like a light bulb breaking or something. Um, and then in Haunted, there's like ghostly voices. It just, those sound effects, yeah, they're pretty cheesy, but they're meant to be that way. They're purposely cheesy, purposely gimmicky. Like, it just is supposed to it's supposed to encapsulate the cheesy, fun, even somewhat creepy nature of Halloween. Yeah, just the atmosphere is perfect on this album. Um, yeah, it's at number 4. Number 3. Now, I guess this is kind of cheating, because this is an EP, not an actual album. Well, this version is a compilation album, but I'm actually talking about the December Moon EP, of course, by Morbid. But I thought this was had to be on here because it does have such a good atmosphere. Um, Combination of just the overall musicality, the vocals, and the way it's recorded just sets off a very eerie, spine-tingling atmosphere that is just the reason why I will probably listen to this, like, not just constantly, but for sure 100% listen to this every Halloween going forward. Like, this just has an atmosphere to it that's meant to be played on Halloween. Like, yeah, you could play it anytime, but Halloween is just perfect for this. Yeah, of course, with the Halloween albums, by the band Halloween, but this just has an atmosphere that is just so good to the point where you just get lost in it, really. You just get lost in the spooky, eerie atmosphere. The point where by the time you're done, not only do you not realize how much time has gone past, which isn't really a lot unless you're listening to everything on here, but you don't realize the time being passed. You don't realize um, just like anything. You're just so focused on the actual musicality and overall atmosphere. You're just so into it to the point where by the time it's done, you're just like, I want more, but there's no more because Morbid only put out very few things. I don't know, just I'll listen to this probably once more just to get that satisfaction of it's just so good. The atmosphere is just so good to the point where you just want more, as much as you can get. As long as well as the music, and Dead's just iconic vocals. But yeah, this is at number 3. And number 2 is Abigail by King Diamond. This has an atmosphere that, if failed, would have completely ruined the album and it would be unlistenable. Now, yeah, here's the thing. Other albums, regular albums, if it has a not so good atmosphere, it can be overlooked if if the album's good musically and maybe even vocally. But with concept albums such as this, the atmosphere is one of the most important factors out of anything. Like, besides atmosphere and story are the two key prominent features on a concept album, and this does both just perfectly. The atmosphere it sets up really just makes you dive into the world of the story being told. Like, you really feel at times you feel like you're there, but other times you feel like just you're sitting down with King Diamond and he's sort of telling you a story. It really depends on I guess your sort of mood or mindset at the time. Sometimes sometimes you're in the mindset of, oh, I actually feel like in the story, or or other times I'm feeling like the story is actually being told by someone sitting down to me and reading it to me. It's just amazing how well everything is put together, and the atmosphere is just spot on. I absolutely love it. But yeah, that's at number 2. All right. At number 1. Number 1 is Scream Bloody Gore by Death. The atmosphere on here is something that hasn't really been captured since in death metal. I mean, you get something that is so good that many people have tried to replicate but failed, or at least gotten kind of close, but not too accurate, to the point where it's just something that was like a special thing that's just so special to the point it can't really be replicated. It'd be kind of replicated, but not entirely. I just love the atmosphere on this album. Like, I think one of the main things of the atmosphere is not only just the way it's recorded, but Chuck's vocals and the sort of kind of reverb effect on his vocals kind of really brings sort of an edge to the actual overall atmosphere. I think I've said this before, but Chuck's vocals, the way they're just echoing, sort of reverberating across the recording studio, it really sort of, in my mind, it sounds like he recorded his vocals in the dungeon of a medieval castle. And that just tells you how great the atmosphere is, that it just sounds like that. Like, the atmosphere is so sinister, yet at the same time not too over the top sinister. And it's just so good. It just oozes the atmosphere so much that you're almost you're gonna feel like you're just gonna fall into the actual music itself, like some kind of portal is gonna open up. You're gonna fall into the world of the actual album that's being depicted on the album. But it's just something so special. It's just something like lightning in the bottle. It can never be recaptured. It can never be replicated. Um, or at least it can never be replicated like fully. Um, but yeah, it's just so good, and it's at number one. Alright, well, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.